Halo has been a staple in gaming culture ever since its debut in 2001. The original trilogy is praised for being fundamental stepping stones in first-person shooters. Even considering the fall of grace that the series has had ever since Bungie left, their effect and influence can't be understated. We've previously gone over the beautiful mess that was Halo Reach, and before that farewell project for Bungie's holy grail of a series, there was one game in between all of that. A game that I believe doesn't receive the amount of praise and overview that it should. After all, it's essentially exalted DLC, but I find that this game in particular is something far more unique than what the other Halo's games past or present ever achieved. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then sit back, relax, get your nice cold cup of water, and let me educate you on the other Halo 3. Perspective is a very important aspect while telling a story, and Halo is no stranger to this, constantly switching the perspective of how a story is told. Either be you saving the galaxy as the Master Chief or seeing it all from the other side of a coin as the Arbiter, or even being the lone wolf as your whole team has lost before you as Noble Six. Halo has always experimented with the storytelling aspect, and I find the most interesting example of this in Halo 3 ODST. Instead of being this drugged up Spartan, you play as an ordinary soldier, or more formally named an Orbital Drug Shock Trooper. Because of the fact that you don't play as a Chief or even a Spartan for this matter, causes the game to tie into that fact completely, which causes this game to stand out way more than the other games do. The development process comes from basically just an empty time slot on the developer's hands in between the release of Halo 3 and the start of production of Halo Reach. ODST's production team originally came from another side project, under the name of Halo Chronicles, which would have been an episodic adventure game. Chronicles had been in production since 2006, but ultimately would become cancelled in 2009. Due to this cancellation, the majority of the Chronicles team had nothing to work on, and Bungie capitalized on this opportunity. Then producer Curtis Creamer pitched an idea of a mini-campaign that'd be 2 to 3 hours long. Then came developing an actual idea of what this side story could be. Bungie wanted to develop a story around other characters than the Master Chief so it wouldn't have the expectation of a mainline game. They even considered making a game focused on an elite strike force, but eventually aimed on making a story on the fan favorite ODSTs. The entirety of ODST's production took place in 14 months, a rarity for Bungie considering every other project they made up to that point took around 3 years to make. Halo 3 ODST was announced to release on September 22, 2009 at E3 2009 with the words "prepare to drop" as the tagline. The ad campaign was flat out good for this game, especially considering that marketing isn't as big as a necessity that it used to be. With the influx of online personalities essentially marketing the game for companies, the use of stylistic or intriguing ad campaigns have been more and more of a rarity. That being said, the ad campaign of ODST is in the same vein of Halo 3, being this grand thematic event. The main cinematic commercial being an overview of an ODST's journey and seeing him grow into this war-jaded man, running face first when hearing noises of a battle, all the way to a comedic promotional commercial of Sergeant Johnson explaining how if you pre-order the game you get to play as him in the all-new game mode named Firefight. Marvel would even publish a limited comic series, Helljumper, which featured ODST's main characters. They really went the extra mile for this game to do as well as it did. Even considering the backlash of the game being a full $60, they constantly defended it and claimed the game had enough original content to serve the full $60 treatment. I don't think this game is worth $60 considering how short the campaign is, and besides that the only thing available to you is Firefight is not worth the full AAA treatment. I think it's more fair to consider this game almost the likes of Miles Morales than rather a full standalone Halo game. They're both excellent expansions, and I think in the case of both of them should have been a good $35 to $45 instead of the price that they actually went with. That being said, the quality of both games meet the mainline games in spades. Halo 3 ODST went on to sell 2.5 million copies and will also go to receive various accolades and praise, even winning Best Original Score at the 2009 Spike Video Game Awards. However, it would be released in 2 separate discs. The first disc contains the campaign mode and Firefight, while the second disc contains a multiplayer mode with the complete set of Halo 3 maps. Owners of the game received an invitation to participate in the Halo Reach multiplayer beta. I think out of all the Halo games, ODST does the absolute best at immersion and atmosphere. Roaming the dark streets of Doom and Bassa in this pseudo-open world while you see burning cars, broken roadsides, or even ATMs pouring money out really adds to his overall sense that Earth is in ruin, and that there may be a chance that humans aren't going to win this one. This feeling of loneliness is also accompanied by music. These calm, mellow piano keys with the saxophone and violin taking the spotlight. It's almost jazzy in a sense, which is so out of left field for Halo's music direction to be taken. I think the game shines the brightest in these moments, just walking around to your next objective and listening to the quiet jazz as you hear Covenant. It just nails it right on the head. There seems to be this lost hope in the city as you explore more and more and start to see messages from the civilians. Most of them just references to other games such as the Believe graffiti, or even complete calls onto future games in the series as the Remember Reach one implies. It all acclimates to this tone that no other Halo game ever attempted. I just think atmosphere-wise, ODST is head and shoulders above any other game in the series due to this unique atmosphere they implemented. The tone even gets set right in the beginning of the campaign, with text scrolling down explaining the current situation and how humanity is losing the war against the Covenant, and it's up to you to try and fight back against the invasion of New Mombasa, as rain pours down and thunders roar. It's a little long, but it still sets up the story with this amazing tone just by using text and not even dialogue. We're then finally introduced to our crew: Mickey, Dutch, Romeo, Buck, and Dare, each all having very distinct personalities. Mickey being this weird combination of an explosive specialist pilot, but also being this very naive and almost cowardly soldier. Dutch is the very action-packed, tough guy, who knows how to handle everything and is always diving headfirst into action. Then we have Romeo, the smart-mouthed sniper who doesn't mind speaking his mind, even when he's gasping for air. Buck is the head of the group, being this confident and always having a plan if things go to absolute waste. Dare is the captain for this mission. It's shown that she was romantically involved with Buck, but it's all pretty dicey when trying to show professionalism. And then there's the rookie, the completely silent protagonist who gets woken up by Romeo and tells him to prepare to drop. Then one of my favorite scenes in the entire series plays. But this is where Halo 3 ODST fits in the overarching story. As the team drops down, a Covenant ship is shown going into slip space, which then sends the pods into a crash course. In Halo 2, however, we are shown this very same scene, and it's also shown that UNSC ship following the Covenant, so because of that, ODST takes place during Halo 2. You wake up in the middle of the night, stranded, hearing Covenant ships fly overhead. You open the door of your drop pod and fall down, instantly going to a critical state with your red covering your UI. Then you are introduced to New Mombasa. I love the intro for ODST, especially the first walk around of New Mombasa, being completely isolated and almost eaten up by the nightfall. Seeing the dark scenery and hearing thunder as you stand up looking or trying to figure out where to go next is such an excellent way to set this all up. Your main mission then becomes to try and figure out where the rest of your squad is. It takes heavy influence from noir type films, with how everything is portrayed. There are two types of missions in ODST, flashback missions and free roam. Flashback missions are just you playing as other members of your squad and hearing their side of the story. These are going to be your more action-packed standard run and gun gameplay that Halo has been accustomed to. Then the free roam missions are more stealth encouraged and let you explore the streets of New Mombasa to try and find relics of the flashback missions so you can piece the mystery together. It is very interesting to see his non-linearity when it comes to segueing into each mission. It makes sense in correlations of the story, and I hope that Halo Infinite is going to take some pieces from ODST and incorporate it to make it more non-linear than that of the standard, and not just the boring cutscene segue into every mission that has been commonplace in the industry for as long as I can remember. Something that does not need to change because of how perfect Bungie already made it is the gameplay. The basis of the gameplay is to create a distinct contrast between Spartans and ODSTs. You can see this distinction between the two even in the littlest of details. For example, while crouching as an ODST, your head bobs left and right instead of just straight movement like the Chief. Or the lack of shields in ODST that provide a feeling of being more vulnerable and human. Even the sound cues play attention to detail, an example being how you hear your character breathe heavily as they've calmed down from an onslaught of enemies. There are various other limitations that come from being an ODST rather than a Spartan. Your movement speed, jump height are hindered. The ability to dual wield is removed and the ability to use equipment is removed. It's supposed to make you feel more cautious about your every move. Unlike with the Chief where you just go in head first guns a-blazing because you know you can use everything at your disposal, there is no handicaps or limitations. It ties into the whole point of perspective that we were discussing earlier. Putting the player in a new situation have a better outlook on how other characters in the world will react to a situation that you were never accustomed to or don't even worry about. At the end of the day, these are the most relatable people that you ever get to play as throughout the series. Even the whole goal of the story shows you that. You aren't trying to save the universe again for the 4th time. All you simply are tasked with is trying to reunite with your squad again and eventually get some alien asset with you. Stakes don't always have to be life or death to make a story interesting. But just because the ODSTs are in John 117 doesn't mean they don't know what they're doing. After all, they are the best of the best. Your new weapons are a silenced SMG and a silenced pistol, which is reminiscent of the Magnum in terms of how broken it is. ODST's gameplay is more flexible than that of the original trilogy, because of the fact that stealth is now encouraged and adds to the overall immersion of the game. I beat this game on Legendary, and to say that I didn't utilize stealth in scenarios will be a blatant lie. Stealth can prove to be vital in getting past enemies or to get them from behind. The guns are precise and snappy just like in any other Halo game. The gunplay is always fun and never boring, and the AI always keeps you on your toes. There isn't much to talk about when it comes to gameplay because after all, it's quite identical to Halo 3. ODST doesn't necessarily add anything besides 2 new guns to separate itself from its Spartan counterparts. The other main selling point of this game is Firefight, and I find this game mode really enjoyable. Even when playing by myself, I really enjoyed this game mode a lot. Even if it didn't have nearly the amount of customization features that Reach would later have, I still find the basis of the game mode fun. If you don't know what Firefight is, let me explain. Or rather, let the man himself explain.
Each new wave means more bad guys. 5 waves make up a round. 3 rounds in a set. Sounds easy, huh? Wrong! See these skulls?
All skulls on.
When they activate, they turn a casual Covenant makeout session into a full-on test of your manly prowess.
I do really think this game mode is not quite the selling point they try and make it out to be, but I still hope they bring it back because it was really fun to just shoot at aliens for a while. Halo 3 ODST is a very weird game. It came at a really weird time in gaming and was essentially just a filler project until Bungie called it quits. But I think with even all that, it's still one of the most overlooked games of the entire series. I don't think the game is perfect or really better than most of the games in the series, but I do think its atmosphere, tone, and the constant creation of tension and distinct identity this game makes is far above than the majority, or dare I even say all the Halo games in the series. I genuinely enjoy this game a lot more than I thought I would, and I wasn't even planning on doing a video about it until I finished it and just started listening to this one song, the song you're listening to right now, Difference for Darkness. It's just something about this song that's so uplifting but also so sorrowful. I think it's large and far my favorite track out of the entirety of the Halo soundtrack. It's just so awe-inspiring to me. Anyway, that's enough out of me for one day. I hope you enjoyed it, and I appreciate it if you stayed all the way through. As always, thank you for watching.